Hello and welcome to episode 1243 of The Sleeper and the Bust. It is Monday, January 8th. I'm your host, Paul Sporer, joined this morning by Justin Mason. Justin, good morning, sir.
Good morning. How you doing?
Not too bad. Nice January weekend. I kind of can't believe we're already in January. I know we say that a lot during the off season when it starts to move, but it does feel crazy that we're already end of the football season, at least the regular season. I feel like the off season's moving kind of fast. Maybe that's just me. Like I said, maybe I say that every year, but it feels like it's moving quickly here, even if things have stalled moves-wise. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I am preparing to quit smoking today. So, those of you who watch the live streams over on YouTube see me chain smoking cigarettes quite often. And today will hopefully be the last episode of that because I've got, I think, like 4 or 5 cigarettes left. So I might even finish those off during this pod. And then I'm going to try to quit. So
I wish you the best of luck in that. I know the difficulty that comes with that as the child of 2 smokers and as somebody who smoked in college, randomly took it up for like a year and a half like an idiot. Thankfully was able to quit. But yeah, good luck. I know it'll be tough. I don't have any great tips for it. I feel like it doesn't have to be all at once, like where if you do have, like one, don't beat yourself up like, oh, I'm a piece of garbage,
See, for me, it's avoiding that one, right? Because
I understand because that probably opens the floodgates, right?
I'm all or nothing. It's the quitting smoking is not the difficult part for me, at least. It is the staying off of them after I've quit. Like I quit.
You're gonna go to any last year. You can go to any gum or anything. Any lozenges?
Lozenges, yeah, lozenges are my jam.
Okay.
I like them. So we'll see.
Well, best of luck.
Sick as hell, so I really need to.
Maybe that'll be a perfect time then when you're sick, because I know that it's not as, and even for people who enjoy smoking, it's not even as enjoyable when you're sick. So maybe that'll be the perfect time to do it. So hopefully you get that taken care of. Good luck in that journey. Let's talk some moves. We did get a handful of moves. I don't think a lot of them are moving the needle too much, so we'll kind of move through them relatively quickly, and then we'll get into the rest of our first base preview here. We're going to start in reverse order here of how they went, because this Teoscar Hernandez move just happened yesterday with him going to the Dodgers. But I think it's probably the most impactful. Anytime you got the Dodgers signing somebody that's making news. He was out in Seattle, didn't have the best year. I got to say, I was pretty down on him, and I'm not taking like a huge victory lap on that one. He ended up getting a 26.93 with 7 steals and a 258. I thought he'd be a decent bit worse leaving Toronto for Seattle. And for a lot of the year, it looked like that might be the case, including a 534 OPS in July, but a 1050 OPS, 7 homer August really helped save his season. Two huge months, in fact, June and August were enough to kind of keep Teoscar's season afloat. Where's he at now, though? 31 years old, has a bit of a strikeout issue, but a big-time power guy going to one of, if not the very best team in baseball. Does Teoscar Hernandez to the Dodgers raise his profile for you, keep it even, or make you fade him because you're worried about a price spike? Where are you at on Teoscar?
I'm worried about a price spike. I'm also worried about playing time because I could see him moving into some sort of platoon. Because earlier in the day, their general manager was talking prior to the signing, was talking on the radio and said, what we really need is someone who's really, really good against left-handed pitching. And then they go out literally that day and sign Teoscar Hernandez.
But they're not paying him $24 million to be a short side platoon.
They're not paying him $24 million.
It doesn't matter. I don't give a shit about the deferral.
$8.5 million are deferred until 2030. I hate this.
I don't. Okay. They're not paying him $16 million to be a short side platoon.
No, I don't think he would. I don't think he would be a strict platoon guy. I just don't know if we're going to see the same kind of complement of plate appearances that we've seen in years past from Teoscar.
Popped 678 last year, a career high. Actually, I think because of some health issues at times, he hasn't really been a big time volume guy. This 678 was a career high, 160 games. He's been more of like a 135 game type guy, Teoscar has.
Sounds about right.
And so maybe you're thinking that that's where he's going to be, even if he's healthy. That I can understand. Because it is worth noting that the volume was also a big piece of why his season ended up being pretty good last year, which is not a knock. And I'm not saying that to be like, oh, I would have had it right if he didn't play a bunch of games. No, he ended up being just fine. I worried about him outside of Toronto. He put up a nice season. I think he'll put up another good one here. But now we go to the price question. We're not going to know for a while, obviously, because drafts won't be done, for a couple of days to kind of really start to get some data. Pick 154 right now, 155 actually, 154.9. Let's call it 155 for Teoscar. Where's that going as a Dodger? What do you think?
I assume he'll move up in front of Anthony Santander, who's like 145, and
It's like a
TJ
10 pick
Friedel,
boost.
143. The question is, does he move in front of guys like Evan Carter, who's at 140, or Jackson Churrio's at 139? Wow, Jackson Churrio's moving up.
Could he fit in between Estuary Ruiz and Evan Carter right there, which is 128 to 138? I'm doing since 12-1, by the way, on Draft Champions. What are you doing? Let's be on the same page. I was doing since
12-19.
Let's do. I'll jump to that.
Last 7 drafts or so.
Let's tighten that up from my side there. Okay, yeah. So 155 is still Teoscar's ADP. Do you think he could move into that? Okay, actually, I like this better because Jordan Walker's at 128, and then Chourio and Carter at 140.
I think he moves. Could he go in there? Walker.
Into the 120s.
I think so. I think
I'm not paying that.
Good chance. I'm not paying that either.
I'd rather go for Walker. I'm going back to the well with Walker.
I am too. Yeah.
He didn't quite pan out for us last year. We were pretty big fans. I'm not quitting him at all.
Yeah. I haven't done my outfield ranks or my outfield projections yet. I'm hoping to have those done here probably by the end of the week. So I think infield should be done by probably tomorrow night. So, and then I can do the outfield. But yeah, just off the top of my head, I would say that's probably too expensive for me.
If he jumps all the way up there for Teoscar, up into the 120s, that's a 2-round jump. I'm not saying you're wrong, because as a Dodger, I think he will get a lot of attention, especially in the immediate
tax, and now we get Dodger tax for sure.
Especially in the immediate aftermath, like a draft that happens today, tomorrow, the next day. I think he could jump up big, but it wouldn't be for me. I would rather Walker. I would rather Carter. I think I'd rather your boy Santander too. I don't know. Maybe I'm too tapping on Teoscar.
I don't know. He's going to be hitting probably 7th in this lineup, maybe 6th, I guess.
Yeah, I think it'll fluctuate between those two.
And I think while they are paying him, and I do think he will start the year with a full-time role, the Dodgers are going to play the best player, and he is bad defensively. He can't DH because Ohtani's, going to be in the DH spot for 160 games or whatever. And
is there any world where Ohtani starts to get some outfield later in the season?
I can't imagine
if his arm's good to go.
I guess, but do you really want to risk that?
You'd have to be pretty certain.
Yeah, I think there's a better chance that at some point Mookie Betts moves back out there.
I think they really like him in the infield. I think they got enough.
I think they do too
in the outfield that they don't really have to do that, but we'll see. All right, so Teoscar, we like him, but we don't like what the perceived price increase might be. If it doesn't go up that high, we might be back in. If he stays 130s, 140s, are you more in the mix? Because he's there with Friedel, Santander, 2 guys you love, and Mullins, 3 guys you love. So I can see why you might not be getting him.
Yeah, it seems unlikely.
But you're not. You wouldn't be uncomfortable with the 140s price. Okay, I think that's fair.
And I think Robbie Ray, he could fall back down once pitching prices start going up again.
And I'd be okay with that, of course. If we get a price decrease on Teoscar, sure, I'll sign up in the 160s. Let's talk Robbie Ray. He's going to your Giants. This was an interesting trade with some surprise to it. Mitch Haniger going back to Seattle along with Tony Disco. Let's talk Ray to the Giants. You're the Giants fan here. What was your first thought there? He's coming off the TJ. Lefty Robbie Ray, former Cy Young. You good with the move?
I love the move from a Giants perspective. Like, we gave up Mitch Haniger, who's always injured, and Anthony DeSclafani, who is always injured. And, you
got an injured guy back, though, right? We always have to acknowledge.
But there's a potential ace.
I understand. His upside is rich.
And guys coming off of Tommy John, like, yeah, you don't necessarily want him from a fantasy perspective in their first year back, especially because this is a guy who struggles with command and control. And then the things that hurt on the way back from Tommy John is your command and control. So, like,
I am curious how that will be for Ray, because his control was the driving force behind the Cy Young win. And then he kind of held a lot of those gains in 2022 with an 8% walk rate after a 7% during the Cy Young season. I do wonder if Robbie Ray, if he can hold that. Now, the command is still an issue. Homer's still very plentiful, but then your park comes into play. Yeah. He's back, after the All-Star break? He had his TJ in May?
I think he had it in May. So, I mean, I would assume he's back in sometime in the summer. Maybe towards the end of the season, and who knows? Maybe they don't really let him pitch except for a little bit.
I think it depends where y'all are at. If you guys are finding some contention,
I can't imagine we will be. So
I didn't imagine it the year y'all won 107 either, though.
Yeah, I know.
So I never really know. Y'all are a wild card in your own right. So not hugely fantasy relevant this year for Robbie Ray, but then next year, after getting some time back, could be really interesting in that ballpark. Let's talk about what's going over to Seattle. Mitch Haniger, Anthony DeSclafani. We know the health piece. We've seen Haniger in Seattle. What are we looking at with these two here? Let's start with Haniger. Again, we know the caveat is if healthy. Where are you at on him if healthy?
I mean, if healthy, he's a pretty darn good player, and he's comfortable in Seattle. He's put up good seasons. I mean, the problem is health, and I just don't buy that he's ever going to be healthy. I think he's just one of those guys that has a really difficult time staying on the field. And
got some pretty whack injuries, though, too.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them have been really whack, but at some point, like, the totality of the injuries are, because these injuries go all the way back into the minor leagues, right?
Yeah.
Like, this was a minor league prospect of note that had his minor league career derailed by injuries, and then
2 seasons over 100 games. They're both 157. So when he goes in, he goes in. But Mitch Haniger then has a bevy of sub 100 game seasons. Here's the thing: that's all baked into the price perfectly. He's a 450 pick. Do you have interest in him in Seattle for Haniger?
I mean, at 450, you're talking about a guy who's in the last round of a 15-teamer, right? Yeah. So, like, sure, especially. I prefer him in fab leagues where you can drop him.
So you're not as interested in the DCs?
No, I don't think he's really on my board in DCs, because I just don't want a guy who is going to just be a 0 on my bench for half of the season, which I think
aren't a lot of players in the 450 range going to be a 0 on your bench, though.
Sure, but I don't want to invite that on my team to begin with. You know that you're going to get all of those. I don't have a problem with it necessarily, just not the way I like to construct my, when I'm looking at 450 and beyond, I know a lot of people are like, well, I'm shooting for upside there. And yeah, you want to shoot for upside, but I'm also shooting for plate appearances. And
yeah. I take somebody like a Trent Grisham.
Yeah.
Who, I mean, I know
going to get 450 plate appearances probably, right? Like,
his defense should get him in the lineup a decent bit in New York.
And the Yankees injuries, right? Like, so I love Haniger from and this is why I say, like, in a fab league, I have no problem putting Mitch Haniger on my bench, because when he gets injured, I drop him, I go pick someone else up. But, like, there is a world in which he does get 550 plate appearances in like 25, 28 home runs is in the cards for a guy like that.
Sure.
So that being said,
39 back in 2021.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, there is. Like, I don't think he's ever getting back to that, but, like, that's in the range of outcomes. And so, yeah, in a fab league, especially where, especially like a 12, like I know he's going to pick 450, which is way outside of the scope of a 12-teamer, but, like, I wouldn't mind putting him on the back end of my 12-team bench as a last pick. And because there's a lot of guys on the waiver wire that I can pick up when he eventually gets hurt.
Potentially another new teammate of his who we'll get to in a moment. But let's start with Tony DeSclafani, who's going with him from San Francisco to Seattle, going with Haniger. Tony Disco is another guy who's been ravaged by injuries over the course of his career. Did have that big 2021 season with y'all. Has struggled to stay healthy in the 2 years since, totaling just 120 innings in those 2 seasons. And, the skills haven't been great in that time either. He's always had a home run issue. Y'all's park couldn't make it go away completely. That big 2021, he was down to a 1.0 flat home run rate. That was excellent. But then back to 1.9 in his 19 innings for 2022 and 1.4 last year in 100 innings flat. So he doesn't strike out a ton of guys, doesn't walk guys, but there's too many homers. Seattle's a decent pitching park, but so was San Francisco. Does this trade move the needle at all for DeSclafani?
No.
He's not even penciled in the rotation right now. He's back up.
No,
we do not need to deep dive him.
Yeah, he's a long reliever type guy. That is, I think, insurance if Bryce Miller or Brian Wu are hurt.
I think maybe even both would have to be, because I think maybe somebody like
Emerson Hancock,
Bingo, would come up first, or even maybe Jackson Coar could leapfrog DeSclafani for an opportunity in the rotation. Like, there's options there. We don't need to go too crazy on Tony Disco.
I definitely think Emerson Hancock could.
Luke Raley is the guy I was hinting at earlier that will be joining Mitch
Your
Haniger.
boy.
He's out there in Seattle now. I didn't see this trade coming. This is kind of an interesting little swap. We know that the Rays, when they see, when they we maxed out on this guy, we can move him. And they got a random excellent season out of Raley that was the most Rays thing possible. 19 homers, 14 steals, 824 OPS, and 406 plate appearances from the platoon bat at age 28. Now he goes out to Seattle, where he'll probably remain a platoon bat, but at least it'll be strong side. Do we like Raley to follow up this big season as a fantasy viable piece at all?
I don't, but I know you probably do. So if you would like,
what's that supposed to mean?
I mean, you love Luke Raley.
I don't know if I love him. I just think he's a good hitter.
One of your dudes.
He went 19-14. That's a hell of a season.
Yeah, and I think he's gonna do actually, my projection on him's not bad. Actually, I did my projection on him yesterday because he's first base eligible, as well as outfield eligible. 17 homers, 9 stolen bases, 232. Okay. The problem is there's a lot of strikeouts, and
32%
going away at all. I'm pretty sure I have him projected for a 6% walk rate and a 32% strikeout rate.
It's a rough combo.
Yeah, I mean, and I think the problem becomes this is a team that, like the Dodgers, they expect to be in the playoff race, but unlike the Dodgers, they're not well, no, I mean, I don't think the Dodgers can afford to be patient with guys because they're going to have such a big lead in their division. At least I would assume they're going to have a big lead in their division just because their team is so loaded. Whereas Seattle's going to be in a dogfight with multiple teams, right? Like the Astros and the Rangers who just won a World Series. That is going to be a battle in the West.
Sorry, the other World Series participant was in the Dodgers division. Thank you very much.
I know, but I mean, do we really think that? Yes, what Arizona did was amazing. I was all in on Arizona last year. I'm still gonna be in on them as a team, but the Dodgers won that division over Arizona by 16 games or something like that. I don't think anybody questions the Dodgers stranglehold on that division. Whereas the Mariners, they could easily finish third and out of the playoffs. So they can't wait around for Luke Raley to strike out at a 40% clip if that's what he's doing early on in the season. Yeah,
he did some good things last year. One thing I will say is that the market just really isn't charging a major price for him. And that's why it's easy to buy back in if you really want to. I mean, you're talking about pick 357 coming off of this season with first outfield eligibility. Even if he's, 17-10, or would you say 17-9, I think that's fine. I don't mind going for Luke Raley on the buyback because he is so cheap. So I think it'll be fine.
Another one of these guys that I really like in a fab league where I can just drop him if he loses playing time, if he's really struggling. But there are going to be some hot streaks that are really fun to watch.
Yeah, and I wouldn't mind him in a DC playing strong side. José Caballero is going back in this deal. He's a middle infielder. That's what they need. Obviously, Wander, done. I don't think that there's
forever.
Really... Yeah, it's over. As we suspected, but now you got some pretty severe confirmation with the way things are going there. 4 homers, 26 steals for Caballero in 280 plate appearances last year. Is there any fantasy relevance here? He also had a 221 average. I would be remiss not to mention that. But 26 steals. Do you think he plays enough in Tampa Bay for José Caballero to have any sort of upside?
I mean, right now, Ross Resource has him projected as a full-time starter. And apparently, and I didn't even know this until I just looked, Taylor Walls had some sort of hip surgery, a labrum repair in the hip. So
correct, in late October.
So yeah, I think there's a reason they made this move. One, they like to have good defense up the middle, and Caballero is a good defender up the middle. And as much as like Junior Caminaro like can play shortstop, he shouldn't play shortstop, especially if
he wouldn't break camp anyway, dude. He's 5 years old.
Well, he played at the end of the season.
He got a gift
drafted like people.
That's because people are dumb. I'm sorry. If you're drafting Junior Caminero, this is a wasted pick right now.
Yeah.
He's 19, going to be age 20 next year, skipped AAA, got a week reward at WEEK, not a WEAK, got a week-long reward of a cup of coffee, a sip of coffee in the majors because of the great season he had. I do not think he's on the cusp of like breaking camp. I think he'll be back in the majors in 2024, but I'm thinking summer maybe for Caminero. Earlier. Yeah,
I mean, if
he's thinking
destroying people in April and May, like he's probably up before Memorial Day. But that being said, like I think right now, especially depending on what Taylor Walls' return schedule looks like, but I mean, you would have to think probably at least 6 months from beginning of November. So we're talking about May. Yeah, I mean, I think Caballero is like going to be a guy who.
You drafted him anywhere?
A DC, sure. Yeah.
RotoWire, as of December 5th, says Wall's on track to be back in time for the start of the season.
Oh, okay.
That's what it says
here.
I've
torn the labrum in my hip, and that is a brutal injury.
Doesn't seem great. I mean, we'll follow it as the offseason goes, but
I would legit be walking and then just fall over.
Because it would just
my leg was sliced off by a sword. Like you ever seen Monty Python search the Holy Grail? Like that,
but a scratch.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I actually broke a hole in the drywall in my
top hallway.
I was just walking down the hallway, I wasn't doing it, and because of the tear in the labrum of my hip, my leg just gave away, and I went straight into the wall.
That would hurt.
It was brutal. So I think, obviously he's had it surgically repaired, but that being ready for the start of the season for Taylor Walls seems a little bit aggressive.
Maybe he's just tougher than you. José Caballero is a 40th round pick in DCs. Are you interested for Caballero?
Absolutely. I mean, that's going to go up, but
sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I can totally see it. 26 steals in that limited PT, plays good defense, could get him some opportunity. Yeah. The Mets made a couple small moves with some decent-sized names, Harrison Bader and Sean Manaea. Either of them interest you?
I mean, I think Bader both guys interest me in kind of deeper formats. I think, but again, both guys injury prone. If you're drafting DCs, and that's what you're looking at right now, that becomes risky because you don't know how much time they're going to miss. But I think both are.
Do we think Manaea is going to start?
I do. Yeah.
I tend to think so too, which does give him some intrigue. I love Bader. Y'all know I've been propping him up for years now. He can't stay healthy though, and we really haven't been able to bring that full season together. He still went 720 last year with the homers and steals in 344 plate appearances. That keeps a little bit of intrigue for me. I have a hard time quitting him, especially at price $395. I'm okay to take him. I'll take him in a DC. And then Manaea is at, pardon me, 393. They're right by each other. I think either's fine in that spot.
Yeah, I think
if you believe it.
I especially like Manaea because they gave him a 2-year deal with an opt-out. He's trying to reestablish that market, but they also gave him real money. I think he's in the rotation, and we've seen really good seasons from Manaea before. So Manaea,
he's really good.
Yeah, I think Manaea for me is the guy I want to target out of those two.
Yep, I can get behind that. I could see it. I could see having both on a DC. I don't have any issue with either of their pick slots there. We didn't cover Zach Plesac. He was actually signed where he could have fit into the last episode, but it's because I don't even think he's got a starting rotation spot in LA right now. He's the next man up, and he'll probably get some opportunities. But where are you on Plesac? Is he on your fantasy radar at all anymore after the flame out 2023?
No.
Yeah, me neither. Do you think, actually, let me frame it this way. What would happen in season? What would have to happen in season to get him on your radar?
I mean,
just an opportunity or skills plus opportunity?
It has
skills improvement.
Skills plus opportunity. Now, this is a team that's filled with guys who get injured all the time, right? Like, so like he obviously could find his way into the rotation at some point. So like in a draft champions, like I get making the pick, but like it's such a low upside opportunity because the strikeouts just aren't there. And so I would rather take a gamble on a guy who, maybe the opportunity isn't as easily seen, but has a higher upside in terms of like strikeout potential and being on a team that's going to win, because I don't think this Angels team is going to be very good.
It'd be so funny if they
won
a
the
good
division
season.
with the playoffs.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. After Ohtani leaves, like it'd be the most baseball thing ever.
Like you could see a world in which this happens too, right? Because like, Tyler Anderson turns back into the Tyler Anderson of the Dodgers. Reed Detmers
Canning and Sandoval, 175 innings apiece.
Chase Silseth's interesting. Like, it's still Mike Trout, right? Like, Taylor Ward gets back to being healthy. Anthony, like, there's a world in which this happens, but like, this is like a Justin Mason 2019 main event roster where you go,
where you're praying.
Oh, look at all the upside there, and then like, but the chance that it all comes together is like nothing.
Is very slim. Yeah. So nothing for me on Plesac. He's only gone in one of the 7 drafts for the time frame that we're looking at. Again, we're on the NFBC ADP, looking at December 19th through January 8th, which is a 7 draft run there. Pardon me, I had a little hiccup there. Anyway, so that's Plesac. I didn't think anything was going to move there, but I just wanted to get him in because we had forgotten him last episode. Let's get into our first base preview and continue that. We picked that up from a couple episodes ago because we had so many moves last episode that we couldn't get into it. So we're kind of dipping into the middle here. And we're on the power heavy options. We got 4 guys: Isaac Paredes at a 169 ADP, Rhys Hoskins at 209, Brandon Drury at 223, and Ryan Mountcastle at 224. Looking at these power heavy options, I do want to start with Paredes. He's kind of the high end there. He's coming off an excellent season. I will say, and in fact, I'm going to update these ADPs since we're doing this right now, and these were put on this sheet quite a while ago. In the 7 draft sample that we're looking at, he's down to 184. So I'm a little surprised that Paredes is not getting a lot of love based off of this season. What do you think is driving that?
I think there's some suspicion there's going to be some massive regression. I mean, I was in on Paredes coming into 2023. But it was a lot to do with like, hey, I think he's gonna get some decent playing time. I think there's some upside here, but he was also triple eligible. And then he just had this monster season where all he did was just pull balls like over the fence,
just smashed.
And I think there are some people who are probably going, it's not sustainable. Like you look at like the plot of like where he hit these home runs, they're all like in the same spot. But I mean, this is kind of what he does, right? Like he kind of is just a pull guy that hits the ball hard and makes decent contact. So like I think the numbers come back a little bit, but like, do I think he falls off? I don't.
Did you finish his projection yet for Paredes?
I've got his projection right now.
Coming off of a 31-98 season with a 250 average. I want to say it was Ben Palmer over at Pitcher List that after I'd been pretty negative on Paredes, kind of encouraged me to take a second look. I did. I became more in on him. I can't claim to have been, on the Paredes bandwagon in a big way. I got convinced of like, hey, maybe I am selling him short. And it was an excellent season. What do you got for his numbers?
I have him for 28 home runs in 580 plate appearances, 245 batting average, 244 batting average.
That'll play.
So, I mean,
I think that's probably worth that price.
Yeah. Oh, I think it is for sure. He's had sub 20% strikeout rates pretty much all throughout his career, except for his, rookie 108 plate appearance sample. So, He makes, 91% zone contact for a power hitter is pretty damn good.
Doesn't swing and miss much.
Yeah, like he puts the ball in play, and I like guys who put the ball in play, right? Like you give yourself the opportunity to get lucky. I think he got lucky, and maybe that regresses some. But I mean, the way this Rays team's currently constructed, like I don't think he's got to worry about losing playing time. I think he's going to play every day, and I think he is going to continue to pull home runs out of that ballpark.
Yeah, at least at the outset too, right? Because the season that he had, I don't know how they could want to sit Paredes, play him every day right now. If he falls off, then maybe you reassess in season. But yeah, I think he's got his playing time locked in, and he had an excellent year. I do think the 184 ADP, which of course is better than the 169 I originally had, isn't bad at all. What about Rhys Hoskins? He's starting to get some buzz. I've been seeing in some different articles, different podcasts, people getting excited about his potential return. Of course, he basically missed, was it the entire season? Did he play at all last year? Or was it an early departure? I can't remember.
I think he missed early departure.
The entire season. Not a single plate appearance last year. So he's coming back from injury. Are you buying back in on Rhys Hoskins at a post-200 pick? He's a free agent, by the way, too, so we don't know where he's going to play.
Yeah, that's the big issue for me is I don't know where he's going to play. And
we'll put him somewhere neutral right now with playing time. What do you think?
With playing time is the question, right? Like, I think we look at a guy like Rhys Hoskins from a fantasy perspective and we go, well, he's going to play. Like, he's going to play every day. But he's not a good defender at first base. He's very CJ Cron-esque. And we've seen teams go like, do I need a CJ Cron-esque guy? And so, like, are we sure he's got a full-time role wherever he goes? I think he's going to look for that opportunity.
I think so, yeah.
And I think you should get that opportunity. And so, like, when I do put in a projection for him, what I do with guys who are free agents is I just put kind of a, dummy projection. I use Steamers, and then I, go and do it once they sign. So, like with Steamers projection right now, they've got him for 656 plate appearances, 30 home runs, 242. Like, and that seems fairly right. Like, I don't think there is a park that is going to hurt him necessarily, right? Or there's definitely parks that could help him, but he's got
the big boy power though.
That plays anywhere. So, I mean, at this price, totally fine with it. You almost want to see him sign in a place that is like, technically a bad hitter's park because everybody goes, oh, I'm not going to. Well, I don't think it'll drop the price, but maybe you could keep it steady. Mm-hmm. And I'll take, I'll take that because I think that would be a profit. The problem is if he went and signed back in Philadelphia, it's not going to be Philadelphia because Harper's playing first. But
see, that's what I was going to bring up, though. Like, I'm reading the RotoWire blurb about him. This is back when they didn't give him a QO. And John Heyman was saying that there's a quote unquote decent chance the Phillies bring him back. I don't really see why that would come to fruition with Harper and Schwarber.
Yeah.
Like, where would he play? So I think another team needs to kind of look at him, but somebody's going to go out and get Hoskins.
Play the outfield, and I don't think they really need him or want him out there every day. So
no, because in the current setup, you can have Marsh and Rojas out there. So two legitimately good defensive outfilders. Casty still stuck in right. Schwarber DHing, Harper playing first. I just don't think Hoskins fits on this club anymore. So I think he has to go elsewhere.
I don't either. I mean, the question is, where does he fit? Maybe he goes to Washington in like a pillow contract kind of deal. That'd be kind of sexy, or a place like that where it's like, hey, I'm not going to be competing for a World Series, but I can reestablish my value. I'm going to play every day, and then next year I can go get a big contract, to kind of make up for the lost year to injury.
Yeah, and give himself a pillow contract, and then have Hoskins maybe try to hit 30 bombs this year and then get back. Tough part for him is the area where he's going. I like so many first basemen in that area that unless it is a cushy spot, I might not land on him very often. Let's talk Brandon Drury. Now, this is my guy. You said Luke Raley's my guy. I love myself some Brandon Drury. Still first, second eligible. Pick 232 on the update. I forget what it was when I first read it off because I updated these here. 232, not too bad. Playing on that Angels team that we just talked about, that like there's a world where they're not terrible. It's probably not the world that we live in, but even if they are bad again, he went 26.83 with a 262. Like he backed up the breakout 2022, Brandon Drury did. In fact, he did it in 45 fewer plate appearances as well. So he basically matched the season, had 2 fewer homers, 4 fewer ribbies with the lower plate appearance total, but 262 average was 1 point different than 2022. I believe in Drury as a quality bat. I like him more as a second baseman, of course. I think the price is right. I'm in on Drury. I'm drafting him for second base. What do you think of Drury's chances to put up a third straight strong year?
Yeah, I won't talk too much about him just because we talked about him on the second base preview already.
Yeah.
So, but like I think he's just steady, like just a steady dude, multi-position eligible, and I think you can kind of pencil in mid-20s homers, and he's going to be hitting third in this lineup, or it looks like right behind Mike Trout. So like that's a lot of runs to drive in. So yeah, I mean I like Drury, especially because he is one of those kind of boring vets that people forget. Like he's one of those guys that can easily drop in drafts because people are going for flasher options, especially if you play in deeper formats. Like you just want a guy you can pencil in for 25 homers and decent batting average, and I think you can do that with Drury.
Absolutely, and yeah, his low end is in the 250s, 260s. Sign me up for that all day.
Yeah,
Ryan Mountcastle going right around that same area. His new ADP is down to 248. Over these last 7 drafts, he's a 211 and 278 range. We know the park and what it does to him, how much it hurts him. He got a little bit of it back last year. There's been some talk about him maybe being traded, so we could see that in the offseason. Obviously, we would reassess. But his homers went down again, but in fewer plate appearances. So his rate was back up, is what I mean by that. Some people might be saying, wait a minute, he went from 22 to 18 homers. What do you mean he got something back? But he did that in 139 fewer plate appearances. Yeah. So, like I said, the rate was up 270 average. That was up 20 points. It was an okay season, but it was 115 games and still not like standout. I don't know. Like I'm stuck on Mountcastle. That park just really takes away my interest in him, especially in this group where I like several guys. I'm just taking Drury instead. But what do you think of Mountcastle? Maybe you can sell me if you really like him.
I think all the concerns you have are valid. It's a bad park. He's coming off a season in which he missed time due to injury, and now he comes back to an Orioles team that's loaded. That is just got all these young guys that they're going to want to give plate appearances to. I think they'd love to trade Mountcastle, but who wants them, right? When you can, why give something up when you can get Rhys Hoskins on the cheap for a year, right?
That's a good call.
So I just don't see a world in which he gets the 600 plate appearances on this team. Like he needs a trade in order to get that kind of volume. And Ryan Mountcastle is an accumulator. You need to be able to accumulate, and I don't think he can on this roster.
I got nothing to add to that. I totally agree. He won't be on
any
of my teams. The Orioles back, and we'll be here all year. So get used to it, folks. That's not birds flying in my house.
If it's really annoying, let me know. Just like tweet at me and be like, hey, stop tweeting the Orioles bird.
Y'all, I wouldn't tweet him at that because he'll do it more if you tweet him that. It's annoying. He'll do it more. All right, we got enough time for the good corner options here, but then we're going to have to do a part 3 on first base, only because of time on my end today, and I apologize for that. But let's get into this group here. This is a group of 7, actually 8, excuse me, and I'm not going to read the ADPs. I'll read them as we get to them because I'm going to update them from this new list here. But it's Andrew Vaughn, Jeimer Candelario, Justin Turner, Josh Bell, Jose Abreu, Anthony Rizzo, Ty France, and Wilmer Flores. Let's start with Andrew Vaughn, pick 245. It's actually down 10 picks from where he was when I originally wrote up this list. Is this finally the year, Justin? I've been on the Vaughn train myself, but I'm starting to waver a little bit. I will freely admit that. What say you about Andrew Vaughn? He wasn't bad last year, but he wasn't all that great either. Go ahead.
What happened to this guy who is supposed to be like really high walk rate, and power that didn't strike out? Like, where'd the walk rate go? Like, where did
I do not know.
Like he's just not turned into the guy I think we thought he would. I mean, he's got good contact skills, and so like I do see a world in which he's like a 25 homer bat with like a 270 kind of batting average. which is fine, but not what we thought we were getting when he was going like 1-1 in, first year player drafts and stuff like that years ago. I don't know. Like I think, and like he had a back issue, like a pretty scary one, according to some sources within the White Sox organization. So that always kind of scares me. And so like his
Backs
projection, yeah, and he's a big dude. Like he's a a big kind of strong dude, and back issues on those guys can be kind of frightening. So I don't know. He's just a guy that I always skip. Like there's so many guys in this tier I really like that Vaughn is not a guy that I tend to get very often, and so probably not going to have very much, if any, Andrew Vaughn in 2024. But I can understand why people would see like, hey, this is a guy, former, third overall draft pick, former like top tier prospect. He's now going to be playing first like every day. Like he doesn't have to worry about like being shuffled out into the outfield or missing playing time.
But he had that last year, 143 games at first base. Yeah. So
and 21 home runs in 143 games is just not inspiring at your first base position or corner. So we're going to talk about the rest of these guys, but like I think I take almost all of these guys, if not
except for the last two for me.
I still take Ty
Vaughn.
France isn't like that much of a different guy.
He isn't, but he's younger. I mean, yeah, the price decrease, it'd be 245 to 311.
Wilmer Flores, I don't care about Wilmer Flores really that much.
I think I'd still take Vaughn over France. I don't know. I'm a little sour on France. We'll get to him in just a moment.
I think you've just been jaded because the relationship hasn't worked out, but Ty France has just been Ty France. Like he's just never taken it up a level, which other people wanted him to. But I think Ty France is fine.
No, last year was dog shit. It's like range of outcomes dog shit, but it was bad. If I had told you that he was going to get a career high 665 plate appearances after 2021 and 22, you'd have put Ty France down for like 23 homers.
We'll talk about it.
280. But yeah, with Andrew Vaughn as a multi-leaguer, which I am, I'll probably get my one just in case share because I have been a believer. But it'll only be so that I don't lose out in case he does finally break out. And I'm not even guaranteed that I'll get that. If I miss out on him and I don't have Andrew Vaughn on any of my, 7 or 8 teams, whatever I do this year, I'll shrug and say best of luck.
Yeah.
Jeimer Candelario has moved up quite a bit, which isn't surprising because when I first made this ADP list, he wasn't signed. And now we have data of him being signed in Cincinnati. He's moved from 248 to 214. Not terribly surprising there because of how great Cincinnati is. First, third eligible. We've talked about the move, right? We don't really understand it, but for Candelario's sake, it's amazing. And I think we talked about the fact that we would buy him. Are you buying him at this price now that it's up to 214?
I don't mind this price. If the price continues to go up, then I'm going to start having some problems. Because
where's your breaking point?
Like if he gets close to Isaac Paredes, like I'm out. Like,
should CES still be at 155?
No, and I think he will come down. I think his max pick's like 172. I think that price is probably more reasonable.
I was a big CES guy coming into the year. I think that's too high now too. Like I think he needs to be in the 200s. Why wouldn't I just take Candelario? He's got the job.
Yeah. Yeah, Candelario's gonna play. I mean, like, as much as I hate the move from a baseball perspective, and I mean an overall fantasy perspective, because it just muddies the water. Like, if we're just zeroing in on Candelario's value, like Candelario makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely.
Going and even, I mean, probably where he's going to end up, which is right around inside the top 200, I think. So it's going to play every day. It's a great park. It's a great lineup. Like, I don't think like that Cincinnati necessarily makes him a 30 home run hitter or anything like that. But, mid 20s with a decent batting average and a lot of counting stats.
An excellent batting average. So I think there's some upside there to maybe hit like 285 plus because of the park, right? I agree with you that The park might not make Candelario a 30-homer hitter, but it might add some extra base hits and doubles and whatnot to improve the runs, ribbies, and batting average, which I think could be the sneaky additions for Candelario. I'll pay the 214. I might pay a little bit higher, but I agree with you. If it starts getting too much higher into that 184 that Isaac Paredes is in, I'd probably go Paredes over Candelario. And then like Vinny P is next there. That one's more of a toss up.
No way. Yeah, no way I'm taking Candelario over Vinny P. I love Vinny P.
I do too.
I know he's coming off the injury, but I
wouldn't say no way.
No way.
How different are they?
Maybe I'm just like thinking of the upside because
I love Vinny P.
Stuff,
but think about the park difference too.
Yeah.
Even if you give Vinny P a little skill edge, because I don't think you give him a big skill edge. You could give him a little because he does walk a bit more. So maybe a bit more and strike out less. So he might have a bit more refined plate approach. But then the park edge is obviously massively in favor of Candy. So I think they're close.
Yeah, I could see that.
Bottom line is I love Candy.
I guess part of it is like I'm just enthralled by Vinny P. Like,
and I get that. I loved him coming into the year. I'm going to be back in on him as well. But I think Candy's pretty close there. And if they do stay that far apart in price, I would rather skip Vinny P for Candy.
Yeah,
Justin Turner, 254 down to 269. We don't know where he's going to go, right? That's the thing. Is like he needs to sign somewhere before we can really have a great idea on him. But let's just go ahead and do what we always do with guys that are unsigned. Neutral spot. Coming off an excellent year, by the way. I don't think he's getting enough love for what Justin Turner did last year. 23.96. I thought the power would go down in Boston. Wrong. 96 ribbies, 276 average. This dude is when healthy, he's good. That's full stop. Even at age 39, I think he could put together another 500 quality plate appearances. But is he somebody that you're drafting? Do you like Justin Turner? He's now only first eligible, no third anymore.
I mean, I feel like Justin Turner is like perpetually underrated. Continues to
I agree
this offseason. I think a lot of his value is tied up into where he ends up, not because of the park, but because he needs to be in place like he was in Boston, where he can DH 100 games.
Correct.
And that because that keeps him on the field. And the hard part is finding a location that wants a 39-year-old DH to play every day. So if he can find that, I'm going to be really, really interested. I was a little surprised he even opted out because like he could just stay in Boston and do kind of what he did, but wants one more bag, I guess. So I get it, but I mean, $13 million is nothing to sneeze at.
Maybe he feels like he can get like 17 deal. Or even a 2-year deal. Obviously, that would be ideal. That's players are looking for years, especially at that time in their career.
2-year 30.
Even though it'd be less per year, it would be that second guaranteed year.
Per year. He was at 13.
So. 13. That's right. I thought it was 16. Pardon me.
But yeah, I mean, I think he get 2-year 30 from someplace, and the question is where.
It won't be Boston anymore because they're committing to Yoshida at DH.
Yeah.
And they got Casas at first. So that's the hard part is finding that fit. I agree with you there. We'll reassess Turner when he comes back, or when he gets signed, rather. And then we'll kind of give our final thoughts there. Josh Bell, 274 to 282 is the drop here. So he's fallen a little bit. He's going to be in Miami again, going to have a full season there because he exercised his option to stay there. He's coming off a solid season. It wasn't, banger by any stretch, but it was fine. 22.74 on the homers and ribbies with a 247 average. Is Josh Bell someone that you're looking at in the late 200s?
Yeah, because I mean, I think he's just kind of boring, guaranteed production. I mean, he hit 13 home runs in the second half. Most of that being in Miami. So I could see I think 11 of those 13 were in Miami. So I could see a 25 homer, 260 batting average kind of season, which isn't anything you're like falling over to go get, but it's pretty guaranteed production. So especially if you have a little riskier build, at the top of your draft, like at 280, I'd like that. That's a totally fine production. And yeah, I mean, I think I'd rather save the 40 picks or whatever it is from Andrew Vaughn and go get Josh Bell.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. 600 plate appearances each of the last 2 years, more than 600, in fact, for Josh Bell. What about José Abreu? He's dipping a little bit, 286 to 293 over these last few weeks. dreadful season, right? There's no two ways around it. It was an awful regular season. Are you moved at all by the playoff surge from Abreu that like, okay, he tapped back into his power, kind of showed us that it's not completely dead? Or does 4 homers in a 11 game playoff sample do nothing for you for the 37-year-old? Where are you at on Jose Abreu?
I mean, it doesn't like mean like, oh, well, he's back to being the guy that he was because that was a top 100 pick. And
Yeah.
I'm not like saying that, but it does give me some hope that he could be that guy again. And so, yeah, he's been one of my bigger pickups already this year. I'm actually trying to find my player shares page and see exactly how many drafts I got Abreu in so far. Just one.
Is the average going to come back up? Because I think people could sacrifice the power if we thought he was going to hit like 260 plus. He was down to 237 last year. Abreu was. That was the real tough part.
Yeah, I mean, I think it will come back. We're talking about a guy who, he's a career 322 BABIP, had a 276 BABIP last year.
Easily a career low.
Yeah, and I mean, like there have been some skills degradation in terms of like, the contact skills. He's just getting older, the bat's slowing down a little bit, but like he's still league average or maybe even a little above league average in terms of like zone contact and overall contacts. Like I'm not worried like it's like he's gonna fall apart. I mean, he could, and this is why he's down here in this spot. But good lineup, good park for him. So I think that even if he isn't massively successful in terms of having a big power boost or a big average boost, like as long as he's playing every day, he's going to drive in a lot of runs and he's going to.
I was just about to bring that up. He had 90 last year. Jose Abreu had 90 ribbies, which everything else sucked. But 90 ribs is not bad there. And if he can get back into, like I said, the 260s, 270s with his average, doesn't even have to get back into the 286 career average or the 300s that he's been in a ton. Give me 265, 270 with 90 ribs and low 20s tanks, and I'm cool with that. And he still played most of the year, 594 plate appearances. I think Abreu is an interesting buyback because he's priced to buy.
Yeah,
what about
I've got
Rizzo?
him at 266 with 25 home runs and 90 RBIs.
Yeah, that'd be nice. I would take that from Abreu. What about Rizzo? They've essentially traded spots here in this little run. He went from 295 to 288. Should be fully back, ready to go from the concussion. I mean, that completely derailed his season. You can see such a clear cutoff from how great of a start he had to that injury where I think Tatis was the one who ran into him there at first base. They didn't diagnose it as a concussion. He's playing through it and just tanking his numbers. His June, July were some of the worst months he's ever had. And it was just such a sharp drop off that it had to be something. It couldn't just be, oh, he forgot how to play. He's just not good right now. He had 11 homers and like a 310 batting average from April and May for Rizzo. Are you back in on him? He'll be 34 this year. And like I said, had that fast start. Do you assume that the concussion is good to go? And are you ready to draft Rizzo?
So when I was doing my projection on him yesterday, I pretty much just took his entire 2023, balled it up and threw it away. Like, don't care. The concussion, I think, was an issue. The reports from the Yankees were that he was actually game ready before the end of the season. They just made the decision to not let him play, just to be on the safe side.
I stand by that. I like that.
And it makes a lot of sense, right? So as long as we don't hear something in the offseason like, oh, he had a reoccurrence, because if he has a reoccurrence of concussion symptoms, that may be his career.
Yeah, you can't mess with that. We've seen it happen before with guys.
So, Justin Morneau, like being a really great example.
Corey Koski.
Yeah, that's another good one. That being said, if he's healthy entering 2024, as we expect him to, my projection on him is pretty sweet. 27 home runs, and let's see, 27 home runs. And I've just lost the projection for some reason.
80 something ribs, maybe?
78 RBIs, 27 home runs, 239 batting average, 3 stolen bases. Like, he can
not a bad
advantage.
Year for Rizzo.
Yeah, he can take it, especially where he's going. Like, I think he may be my favorite target late for first base right now because like he takes advantage of that short porch, and he's going to play every day that he's healthy. I think Rizzo is kind of underrated right now in the market, and for good reason, because there is that risk, right? Like, especially right now, everybody's, gladiator season's over, draft champion season's going on, but these are leagues in which you cannot drop guys, and there is a range of outcomes that he never plays again. So like, I totally understand people going, I'm not going to risk that, but I think this is a really good time to take that gamble and say, hey, you know what? 27 home runs from a guy I'm getting around pick 300 is pretty awesome.
And I think the big sneak on Rizzo is the potential RBIs. With Judge and Soto in front of him, he could be the sneaky old guy doing 90 ribs. And hopefully it's not with a 237 average
I
and
might
18
actually be
homers.
pretty low. I have 78 RBI, but I might be kind of low on that RBI total with those guys in front of him.
I would even say that 100 is in play. If he stays out, and I'm talking upside, but like 25, 100 with a 245, 250 average, that's in play for Rizzo if he's healthy. He was playing so well before the injury. I just hope he's okay too. He's got a wiener dog, so I instantly like him for that. He seems like a cool dude. He named his dog Kevin, which human names for dogs I'm obviously a fan of with Charlotte and Henry. So I co-sign everything that Rizzo's doing in the dog world there for sure. Ty France, okay. Fine. Try to tell me why this wasn't a nightmare season.
It was a nightmare season.
Like, I get that it's in the range of outcomes, but like, should we have any reason to expect 21, 22 to come back for France?
Because all the skills are intact. Like, I mean, we're talking about a guy with a 91.5% zone contact. He actually hit the ball harder than he has pretty much his entire career. We're talking about a guy who increased his max exit velocity by over 2 miles an hour, raised the launch angle back up to around 13.5%. Barrel rate was the second highest of his career. Hard hit percentage went up. Like, the XBA was, 16 points higher than his actual BA. I think he got a little bit unlucky on balls in play. Still does not strike out, makes a lot of contact. Is he ever going to be the guy that I think some people in the industry thought he might be? No, he's not.
Which is what?
But I think some people thought, like, hey, there's more power coming on top of the batting average. That he's, that
might have been me.
Yeah, it was you, for sure.
Why did you just say that?
Because it's way more fun to just like poke and prod under the surface.
Don't be a bitch. Come at me straight. I'm not afraid of it.
Could he, like, why can't he be the 2022 version of Ty France, which is a low 20s home run, a very good batting average for a first baseman who accumulates a good amount of runs and RBIs, like Yandy Diaz? Like, why can't he be Yandy Diaz-esque, right? Like, which isn't a guy who's going to win your league, but
Yandy doesn't hit 250.
Well, I don't think Ty France will either.
We did last year.
Yeah, because I think he got a bit unlucky.
Are you concerned at all that he plays injured most of the year because he gets hit by the ball all the time?
That is a problem.
That used to worry me about Starling Marte too. Mm-hmm. And he's not going to stop. He lives on top of the plate. That's part of their game. Speaking of Rizzo, that's part of his game too. And you just wonder if that has a pile-up effect as the season goes on, and maybe that contributes to some of the bad luck because maybe you're not hitting the ball as hard as consistently throughout the year. I don't know. I was a big France guy. You're right. I did say, maybe he can get into the upper to mid to upper 20s with his power. He went the other way down to 12. If you give me 17, 270, I can live with that.
Yeah, and like, I mean, at this
but no
point,
extra eligibility anymore, right? He's first base only.
First base only. Only played first base last year. I don't think that's coming back either.
I agree.
Like, we get to a point here, like, and I think Jose Abreu, Ty France is kind of like this line of demarcation where it's like the rest of the options get pretty gross.
We'll talk about them on the next episode. There's some guys there that I do like, including Raley, but we already talked about Raley.
Yeah, but one of the things that Ty France offers that I think pretty much the rest of the pool after Ty France doesn't offer is a level of safety. Like, there is
and batting average upside, which is hard to find.
He's gonna play like every day that he's healthy. Like that is something you can't guarantee me with a lot of the guys we're going to talk about on the next episode.
I think that's fair. We do have to cut it here. We'll talk Wilmer Flores next episode if you want. You said you didn't care about him, and I do have to go. So we'll be back later this week, finishing up first base finally. And then I don't know what position we'll get into on Friday, but Justin and I will figure that out. Keep checking out our rankings. They're going up the rest of the week. Everything should be up by Wednesday. I think we have shortstop and reliever today, starter tomorrow, and then top 200 from Jeff on Wednesday. Justin's second baseman are already out, so make sure you check that out. Justin, great talking with you. Good luck in the smoking secession, and I'll talk to you later.
Take it easy.